I'm so excited you're here because we all have a home. We all have surroundings. Sometimes it's encouraging, sometimes it's discouraging. I know for me, my surroundings usually do have a very strong effect on how I feel, how productive I am. Well, what if you could just get a few secrets to help transform your environment in such a way that it makes you feel inspired? That's why I have this incredible guest on today. Marian Parsons is talking about how to make your home uniquely yours. So welcome. I'm so excited you're here, Marian.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, absolutely. So I need to tell everyone who's listening, watching, I have this book in my hands. It feels like home. And I'm pretty sure I had to like get some tissue and wipe the drool off the pages because I'm just like, oh, I want all of these rooms. They're so beautiful. But have you ever just for whoever's listening, watching, like looked at these magazines, watched these shows, and you have this feeling like, well, wouldn't that be nice?
Mm,
But it's unattainable. But that's what I love about what you're doing is we're going to talk about how you started this whole thing, but also you come like, I'm going to meet you right where you are.
hmm
And let's just do some simple things so that you can breathe deep, feel at peace, feel inspired, because our homes are so important. So let's talk about, how did you even get started in doing this thing?
In the book or just decorating in
Just
general?
decorating everything. Like, why is home so important to you? And how did this
Well,
business get started?
right. It's such a long journey, as is everyone's journey. And the love of decorating, I mean, I've always been into aesthetics from when I was a little kid. I loved playing with my dollhouse and rearranging the rooms in it. And I did wallpaper and all sorts of stuff. And that was, it was a part of my creative play. So I've always loved home. I've loved aesthetics. I've loved creating things, making things. So I did a little bit of everything. And I'm a kid of the 80s. So definitely grew up during like the resurgence of crafting. Everybody's doing cross stitch and all that sort of thing. So I sort of grew up in that, but my main creative outlet was theater. And when I became an adult and I stopped doing theater, I decided not to do it as a profession. I needed a place for that creativity to land.
Mm,
And I didn't know where that was going to be. And it just sort of came out in my house. I started to um, look at decorating books
yeah.
and I wanted to make things. So I traded my mom a pair of my rollerblades for her sewing machine. So she went off rollerblading and I used this,
Oh my gosh, that's
1980s
awesome.
Kenmore sewing machine and
Yeah,
started
baby, can't
making,
beat that.
oh yeah, started making really horrible pillows and, all sorts of things. But I just it was a slow process. And I discovered antiques because it was kind of buying used was what I could afford. And
Yeah.
then it just evolved into a real love of painting, decorating, refinishing things, making my space beautiful, and just continued to evolve through the years.
And now you have a book, you have a business, and you started your business as a way to buy groceries. Tell me about that.
Right. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I had a 4-month-old and I think almost 2-year-old. And I my husband is a youth pastor. So you usually don't be a youth pastor because you're going to get paid a ton of money. It's really, it's a love of that kind of
Yeah.
ministry and working with
Yeah.
teenagers. And so we were on a very tight budget, and it was a really sweet time of God's provision. We always had everything we needed. We could always pay our
Right.
bills, even when it didn't make sense. When we're like, I don't
So
know how
good.
that just happened, but everything was paid. We always had what we needed. So
I
many
know
people,
that.
oh yeah, so many people came through and supported us. But I felt this like, oh my gosh, I need to do something. I need to find a way to bring some extra income in. Not
Yeah,
only
that
that, but I needed something that gave me more of a sense of accomplishment
Totally get
because
it. I mean,
yeah.
it's that Proverbs 31 woman.
Hmm.
We read where she is building a business and buying and selling in the marketplace, and she's looking at investment properties. It's like, okay, what could I do? Like, I have 7 kids, and
Oh,
so
wow.
stay-at-home mom, homeschooling, the whole bit. And I remember thinking, I it's not that I could do more because I was doing a lot, and that's a noble profession. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But I always felt like there was something more inside me that I wanted to get out, something that was mine. And so
Yeah.
that's when I started coaching and building business coaching people. That's what, I found that was my thing, not, and it didn't take away from me being a homeschooling mom. Like I was
Yeah.
almost like it empowered that. It made me a
Yes.
better mom. It made me a better homeschooler. It made me a better wife because now I had this outlet where I could serve people and create wealth.
Yes. And I agree totally with that. I think that there can be this narrative of if you want to do something other than just taking care of your kids as a mom, then it's selfish. So you shouldn't do
Right.
that. I think, especially in kind of in the church culture and all of that. And
Oh, girl.
yeah. And
It
so,
is oppressive. I'm sorry. It is
yeah.
oppressive.
Yeah.
But it's like, and you know what? I realized in my background in behavior therapy and neuroscience, I really started studying the mom brain. And I realized that there is this thing called categorical thinking with
Mm,
moms. And you see it, I see it, and it looks like this. If I prosper in this area of my life, I will fail in this area of my life. And one reason that we have a tendency to shy away from building a business or growing our impact or whatever that looks like, whatever God has put in you, that pull, we will sabotage our efforts there because we're afraid it's going to make us a bad mom. And of course,
yeah.
you and I, people listening right now, our family is the most important thing to us. So we will never sacrifice that. So now we pull away from the thing that God is trying to pull out of us to change the world. And
Yeah.
I see it all the time. And so I help moms, like, what if we didn't divide God? What if we just allowed the multiplication? Because that covenant promise is I can give you both, and I can give you that overflow life in every area of your life. You don't have to think if I'm blessed here, I'm going to be cursed here.
Yeah.
That's thinking that's going to limit you and limit you as a mom with your children. I'm a better mom because I have allowed myself to pursue that.
Yeah, and it definitely did that for me. I having that creative outlet, having things that I could finish at the end of the day that were done, like just
Yes.
beautiful doneness, not like, okay,
Yeah.
the dishes are
Beautiful
done.
doneness.
Oh,
That's like
yeah.
the best term I've ever heard. Beautiful doneness. Oh,
Yeah, it was something that I was done, and it was always going to be done. And so I really needed that. And I also needed the connection with other women, which I found through the blog world
yeah.
and even just connecting with other local entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
it was this world that I never pictured myself in. I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I felt like I had no business starting a business, but it just felt like the best way for me to make some money. And the idea, to answer your question, was about just bringing in like 200 a month just to help with groceries, just to take a little pressure off,
Me too,
just
girl.
just to make
If I
buying
could
that
make a
box of
carpet,
diapers a little
I
easier,
thought
you know.
I thought I was gonna make it big if I could pay a car payment.
Yes.
Like that was gonna be my thing. Because I remember our car payment at the time was $198 a month. And I was like, if I could just cover that, I've made it.
Yes. That's
Right?
exactly how I felt. I was like, and $200 felt like the moon to me. It really did. It
Girl,
felt like, how am I going
100%.
to get there? And
Feels so big.
yeah. And so I knew it was a big step of faith, but it was one of those things where you're like, and this was about almost 15 years ago. So this wasn't when starting a blog was just like, I
Right.
don't know, this very normal thing. It was like, what are you doing? What is that? How do you make money doing that? Isn't that something that
Yeah, I'm
just
still trying to figure that out. Yeah.
right, that just people do like in
Right.
sports, like from their
Right.
basement and stuff?
That's
Um,
so funny.
yeah, it was just kind of this very obscure little pocket of the internet that has
Yeah.
exploded over the years.
Yeah.
And but I had this faith in it. So I really didn't care if it was funny to people or if they didn't get it. I had this like internal, drive that was like, this is
Totally.
something I can do from home. I get
Yeah.
this world. I'm excited about it. I think that it has a
Yeah.
lot of potential. And I'm getting to do what I enjoy doing, and I'm getting to share it with other people. And it was something that fit with what I wanted for my life, which was to be home with my kids and to still be able to go on the
Yeah.
youth trips and all of that stuff. And it just, it was a big step of faith. I learned a lot along the way. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but also crazy blessed is such a good like description of it, because I can see God's blessing on it, all through the years.
Oh, so good. So good. And now, I mean, it just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, it grew to surprising places. So after
Yeah.
just a year of doing my blog, it was starting to bring in a really good income, like a good full-time income. I had an opportunity to be an antiques dealer at one of my dream locations called the Luckett's store in Luckett's, Virginia, which I had shopped at for years and never even imagined myself like being among the
Wow.
ranks of the dealers selling there. I got featured in magazines, which had always been a dream. And I ended up just getting more and more opportunities, and I sort of let my business meander and change as those opportunities came and went. And I really tried to keep an open mind too for what was going to work best during that season of life. So sometimes it was
Right.
writing a book, sometimes it was working really heavily on retail, sometimes it was working out of a studio, sometimes it was working from home. So it's really morphed into whatever is going to be sort of the best thing based on a variety of factors at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I'm just reminded all things are possible with God, because
Mhm.
it is like all he asks us to do is allow that desire he placed in us and then just take the next step. And you did take the next step, and has grown, and you've been able to help so many people with the surroundings that really dictate so much of our emotion.
Mm.
Like, I don't know about you, but like if I can't go to bed in a room that has any clutter. I
Mhm.
can't be at like I can't sit in the living room and watch a movie if there's like any clutter. So our productivity really has a lot to do with our surroundings. And you talk about 5 secrets to take your home from nice to wow. And so
Right.
I want to talk about that, because I'm all about, if we can make it easier, please, like 100%. I am not about just like hustling our butt and just like spending so much time and energy doing things that are not going to give us a big return. So if you have little secrets on how we as moms can quickly alter our home to
Right.
make it a better environment for what we're doing with our families, please share this.
Well, I think that so the first three elements are really to look at the layers of the room. And I think that
Mhm.
that's really important, to set up a good foundation, to work on bringing in layers that are textures, colors, and it can be high contrast, low contrast, it can be monochromatic. It's really whatever you love. But I think bringing in those layers are it's so important for building a room. But I
Okay, I'm
think
gonna
that,
sound like an idiot.
oh, go ahead.
I'm putting it out there. What are layers? Like I don't I know layers, like, okay, I put a jacket on over the shirt, and I'll probably put a coat on before I go. Like those are, or layers in your hair. I get that. I don't know. I'm just gonna be the voice
Okay,
that says, I don't get it. Please help me.
so for those who are watching, or if you're not watching, you're just listening, if you could go just take a quick peek at the video, I'd like to walk through Hannah's space and what we're seeing, the layers that we're seeing. So we've got this soft pink wall color art. In front of that is some accessories that are layered in front. So you could
Okay.
just
All
choose, if
right.
you wanted to have just the artwork and that's it, nothing else on the console behind you. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing the the black lining that's around the artwork is really mimicked in the chair that you're sitting in. I think you're bringing in a layer, tying those pieces together. And then
Okay.
also in the fretwork in the console that's behind you. So just how, like you were saying, I understand when I'm putting on layers on an outfit, like you're putting them together in a way that's going to make each piece look better and stronger than if you just
Okay.
wore it by itself. So
So is
that's
it
the
like
idea with
this?
home. Yeah.
Like, okay, so maybe this is, tell me if this is what you're talking about. So I have like a big L-shaped sofa,
Hmm.
okay, and it was just boring. And I
Yep.
put some pillows with like different, like one is like a rough fabric, another one has a big checkerboard on it. And then it was still like I wanted to add more something. I didn't know, I guess it was a layer. So I draped a blanket over the back that kind of echoed some of the pillows. And then
Yep.
I have like the ottoman and then our sofa there. So is that what you mean about like, okay, you have like this basic kind of canvas, and then what can I accentuate that with, and what can I like, where can I draw the eyes? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Definitely.
Okay, I
It's,
was layering
yeah.
and I didn't even know it.
Yes. And I think you naturally want to do that. I think that's a part
Yeah,
of our like nesting and creating this environment that feels comfortable. If you just
yeah,
put a sofa and a couple chairs in a room, it's like, well, it's furnished, you can use it, but
right, right.
it doesn't really
Okay,
feel
I
like
get it.
home. It's all of those little things
Yeah,
that you add to it that are going to make it feel like your space. So
okay.
your space is very personalized. And I can see that. I get a little snapshot of what you're about, not just because what you're wearing, but of what you have
Cool.
set up behind you in your space. And I think that's what's so important for a home is that it really should reflect you and the people who live in the house. One of the other things that I talk about a lot is adding your personality. And I think that can become, I think that's becoming harder in this age of Instagram and social media and Pinterest, where we're seeing these spaces sort of over and over again. And we're seeing a like count on spaces. So we're seeing like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what's popular, this is what's viral. And I think we can start to equate that with this is what's beautiful and what will look good in my house. When that's just what looks good there. That's just what looks good
Mm,
on the screen in that room. What looks good in your house is what is going to help you tell the story that you want to live with your family or whoever you live with in that house. And
okay.
that may be creating a really cozy environment. It may be having family pictures everywhere. It may be displaying a lot of antiques. It may be celebrating accomplishments of the people who live there. It's going to look different for everyone. And a part of the book, I really want to encourage people to embrace their style and what they love, and not just what is popular online or
Yeah,
in
that's so true.
magazines. Because I
Yeah.
think it's easy to do that. There's that tendency to kind of chase what's popular when oftentimes, like, yeah, it looks great, it looks beautiful, it's amazing,
Yeah.
but is that what you want to walk into when you get home
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
work or from a vacation and be like, oh, I love this place more
I
than
love
any
that.
other
Okay,
place.
because it's like going home to an old friend. It's like, okay, you know me. Kind of like when
Yes.
you meet a friend and they're like, you just immediately like pick up where you left off. And so that's what I feel like when I walk into my home, and I see it's a little weird. Like we have little weird things on the wall. We have a painting on the wall that my daughter did, and we call it the disco fawn because it's a fawn wearing like these like thigh high purple boots, and he's got like this like red shorts, and it's hilarious. Like she was in the middle of like I think some kind of Lion the Witch, the Wardrobe, that kind of thing. So she made this fawn, but I swear it looks like a disco star. And
Hmm.
so we called the disco fawn, like this big painting, bizarre. Like no one would be like, oh yeah, that matches the room. It's purple and red. And so it's like, okay, yes, definitely. This is the wall where we display the disco fawn. But I love that because it's
Yeah.
just who we are as a family. It's weird, it's out there, it's different, but that's who we
Oh, I
are.
love that. I love that. I wish more people would put their kids' art in frames on the wall and not just on the refrigerator, because Yeah,
Oh, and by
it's
the way, he
just
has a scarf that's blowing in the wind
oh
too.
great.
A scarf. Yes,
The
perfect.
disco fun. I
Like
love that.
yeah, disco
Yeah.
fun. I'll
And
have
I
to
mean,
send you a picture.
it can be quirky, crazy, weird. It can be very traditional. It can be,
Yeah.
oh, it drives me nuts when I see some of these design shows. There aren't quite as many on as there were a few years ago, but when they'd be like, oh, that's so old fashioned. It's just, and it's like, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with being
But maybe
plastic?
that's my old friend. That's my
Yeah,
friend. I like my friends.
exactly. So I think it can be whatever you want. I really don't believe there are bad colors. I don't think there are bad, ugly decorating styles. I think it really is what you love. And
Yeah.
I think if more people embraced what they really loved, no matter like what it looked like,
Right.
that it would.
Right.
But I do think, so something good and positive that's come out of the last couple of years, especially when we had to stay home so much more than we
Yeah.
were planning to. We had to work from home and teach
Yeah.
from home and be home a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people really saw like, man, these four walls aren't really doing it for me. This was a
Yeah.
place I could come and like eat and sleep, but
Yeah.
as far as a place where I want to like live and work, this place needs a little bit of work. And so,
Totally.
we saw that like DIY products were flying off the shelves. People
Right.
were taking online classes, and there was this kind of desire to, get back to making the house as big or as small as it is, wherever it is, if it's your dream home or if it's just the best place you could afford, making it a true sanctuary that
Yeah.
feels like a good place to be.
Love it. Love it. So good. So those are a couple, any more cool secrets for our environment?
Those are a couple. I would definitely recommend. I mean, of course, I would recommend looking at the book, but I think it's so much to digest over like, let me just spew out a few things on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's a hard format to digest those in. So I would definitely recommend looking at the book and getting some of the visuals, and there are little exercises you can work on. So even if you're like you were feeling like, I don't even know what layers are. I don't even know, like, when people are talking about, I don't know, styling, I just feel totally out of my element and lost.
Yeah.
This book is really written towards people who, want to make their house look better, but maybe don't, feel like a lot of decorating books do fly over their head. This is super down to
totally.
earth. Yeah.
And also I want to encourage anyone who's watching and listening, who is a mom, who's busy. I get it. So does Marian. We get this. Life can be crazy sometimes, but I want to encourage you that no time that you spend on your home, on your surroundings is ever wasted. That's one thing I felt a lot like. I've got so much to do. I got to put a meal on the table. I got to make sure the kids are doing their schoolwork. I've got to do our budget. I've got to pay bills. And I would feel almost guilty if I ever wanted to, like, I really want to paint this wall. I really want to, redo this flooring. I really want to just get the sink cleared and make the counters beautiful and light a candle. Sometimes I feel like I shouldn't need that. I should just get stuff done. That is getting something remarkable done, because when it comes down to it, we're the heart of the home. And when we want that heart to be healthy. And so I think no time, no energy, no effort put into your home is ever a waste. So understand that you are building something here. What you're doing at home is beautiful. It is worthy. It is glorious. Don't discount that at all, because you're doing a wonderful work there.
I have a really wonderful story on that. And because I have struggled with that as well. Like, is what I'm doing, is it materialistic? And it can be, it can definitely go in that direction. And I didn't write about it in the book, but I wrote about it on my blog. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to documentaries. I love documentaries. I love learning things.
Me too.
And there's a great documentary by Ken Burns on the Dust Bowl and that whole era of, during the Depression, and the people who decided to stay in these areas that were having massive dust storms and were, their farm fields were literally dried up and blown away. And they were interviewing a gentleman who, so he's here on this documentary, has the opportunity to speak about anything he wants. And he talks about his mom and how she washed the curtains every day. And because dust would just permeate the whole house.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they would cling, the dust would just cling to the curtains. And instead of this woman saying like, forget it, you're just going to get dusty tomorrow, I'm not doing it, I'm done, we're either taking curtains down or they're going to be dusty, she washed them every day because she felt like that was like that was an important thing for her to say. It doesn't matter if everything's dusty and all the crops are failing and all of that. I want the curtains to be clean. And that was important to her. And so her son, you know, decades later has the opportunity to talk about any memories that he wants to talk
Anything.
about the Dust Bowl, about life as a child in the 1930s. And he talks about his mom washing the curtains. And that struck me. I mean, I actually got teary-eyed. I'm like, what a beautiful
Yes.
thing that like, that mattered. It mattered.
It mattered.
It must have felt so futile and frustrating to her at times. And maybe she did feel like, man, why am I wasting my time doing this? But her son noticed it and it really left an impression on him. And I think the same thing is true, that when we take the time to take care of our family, to take care of their environment, the home we live in, we show care and good stewardship and all of those things. You know, they're probably not going to notice when they're 13. Maybe they will, but they may not. But when they get older, man, I bet your daughter's going to tell forever how awesome it was that her mom hung the disco fawn up on the wall, when a lot of parents wouldn't, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, it doesn't match my decor, I'm not going to do it. But I love that you just embraced that. And I think that'll really have a big impact on her.
It's so beautiful because it really does matter. It really does matter. And what we're doing is not just for our home. It's not just for our peace of mind. We're creating a legacy. We're putting a core belief in our children that we're worthy of a beautiful environment and it matters. And I want to thank you so much. Marian, where can people go and get more of you?
So if you Google Miss Mustard Seed, you'll pretty much find me. But I'm at www.missmustardseed.com, or you can find me at Miss Mustard Seed on Instagram and other social media platforms.
Beautiful. You know, Marian started from just a mustard seed. She started with just a dream, which shows you that's really all you need, is just to say yes to God and take that next step. And you know what happens with faith the size of a mustard seed? It is blessed like crazy.